They came to Montreal looking for redemption, but instead of a comeback, Ferrari delivered chaos. 2 drivers, 1 team, and 0 answers when it mattered most. What was supposed to be a fresh start turned into a painful reminder that behind the red suits and polished PR, Ferrari is still a team in crisis. And now, the truth has leaked for everyone to hear. Charles Leclerc, once the golden boy of Maranello, left demanding explanations mid-race. Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion, was left helpless in a car he could barely control, confused, frustrated, and begging for answers that never came. The pit wall said, Plan B. Leclerc said, Plan C. The strategy was unclear, the communication broken, and the results? A disaster. But this wasn't just a bad day at the office. This was the public unraveling of a team that promised evolution and delivered dysfunction. And the worst part? The radio messages that now circulate online show it all in real time. The hesitation, the confusion, the fury. This isn't just about strategy anymore. It's about trust. And after what happened in Canada, that trust may be gone. So before we dive into the full fallout, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and stick with us until the end, because what just came out of Ferrari's radio is more than shocking. It's a warning. Something inside this team is breaking, and both Hamilton and Leclerc know it. What made Ferrari's collapse in Canada truly unforgettable wasn't just the tactical errors or the lack of pace. It was the fact that the entire world could hear it falling apart. Through the team radio, fans were given a front row seat to a breakdown in real time, not just of performance, but of communication, trust, and morale. Lewis Hamilton's race began with promise. He had out-qualified Leclerc and positioned himself perfectly for a strong result. But as the race unfolded, his confidence unraveled, not because of one big error, but because of a series of small, silent failures that Ferrari never saw coming, or worse, ignored. When Hamilton first reported that something felt off with the rear of the car, it wasn't panic. It was observation. But that observation quickly turned into disbelief. Why is this car so slow? He asked, almost pleading. It wasn't a rhetorical jab. It was genuine confusion. As the laps wore on and his position fell apart, his tone shifted. Out of power, out of pace, he reported, calm on the surface, but with a sharp undercurrent of helplessness. This wasn't the Lewis Hamilton we're used to hearing. This was a driver realizing in real time that the tools he was given weren't just flawed, they were failing him entirely. And the responses from the Ferrari pit wall? Almost robotic. Hamilton reported brake issues. He said he had no rear grip. He told them clearly that something was wrong, but the replies he received sounded as if they were coming from a completely different race. The team told him the balance was fine, that the car looked normal, but Hamilton wasn't fine. His car wasn't behaving normally, and the data wasn't matching what the driver was experiencing. It was a communication gulf, and in Formula 1, that gulf can cost you everything. Then came the moment that defined it all, Hamilton asking where he had lost 25 seconds. It wasn't a tantrum, it wasn't even anger, it was disbelief. He had started ahead of Leclerc, he had been the team's reference all weekend, and now, with no explanation, he was adrift, abandoned by strategy, betrayed by the very system designed to support him. Meanwhile, Leclerc was running his own parallel nightmare. Confusion didn't creep in slowly, it hit hard and fast. Told mid-race to switch to Plan B, Leclerc coolly suggested Plan C instead. But before that could even be considered, the pit wall had already made a decision he never agreed to. They called him in. No discussion, no explanation. Why have we boxed? He asked, still managing to keep his voice measured. But the message was clear. This wasn't a strategy call, it was a misfire. Leclerc had just told the team his tires were still holding. He wanted to stay out, but they had already overridden him. The frustration was building, but Leclerc tried to keep it diplomatic until he couldn't anymore. I don't understand this choice, he said, cold and quiet. Just 6 words, but they landed like a punch to the gut. Because they didn't just refer to the pit stop, they referred to everything. The strategy, the inconsistency, the way Ferrari had been operating for weeks, making decisions with no clear plan, no transparency, and no input from the people behind the wheel. This wasn't rage, it wasn't hysteria, it was worse. It was cold, calm disappointment. And that's what made it hurt so much more, because both Leclerc and Hamilton were trying to stay composed. They were trying to manage the chaos, but Ferrari, time and time again, gave them nothing but silence, contradiction, and confusion in return. You could hear it. in their voices. You could see it in their body language after the race. Leclerc slumped in his seat, clearly reliving every call that didn't make sense. Hamilton subdued, walking away from the garage without even glancing back. No fireworks, no shouting, just the quiet devastation of two world-class drivers who had finally had enough. And all of it, every second of it, was captured live in radio messages now etched into the memory of fans around the world. Because what we witnessed in Montreal wasn't just strategy gone wrong, it was the moment Ferrari lost the confidence of both its drivers. And if they can't fix that, the championship isn't the only thing they'll be throwing away. This wasn't a fluke. This wasn't a couple of mistakes made under pressure. What we witnessed in Montreal was a systemic failure, broadcast live to the world through the voices of two furious drivers who for the first time stopped holding back. The dream of uniting Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc under the prancing horse was meant to symbolize a new era, a bold, dominant Ferrari fighting for titles on all fronts. But the only thing they're fighting right now is their own team, and the timing couldn't be worse. These radio messages, now spreading like wildfire, haven't just exposed poor decisions, they've shattered the illusion of cohesion inside Maranello. What the fans are hearing is exactly what the drivers are feeling: disorganization, hesitation, and a lack of trust. These aren't growing pains, these are alarm bells. Lewis Hamilton didn't come to Ferrari to be part of a vanity project. He came for precision, for excellence, for legacy, but all he's received so far is silence when he needs answers, confusion when he needs clarity, and a car that still isn't responding to his expertise. And now that the audio is out in the open, there's no masking it anymore. He's frustrated, deeply, visibly, and what's most alarming is that this isn't frustration aimed at a rival or bad luck. It's aimed at his own pit wall. On the other side of the garage, Charles Leclerc is no longer the quiet soldier. Years of patience are cracking under the weight of constant misfires. This is a driver who has bled red since day one, but how long can that loyalty last when every race weekend feels like a gamble and every strategy call feels like Russian roulette? Leclerc's voice during those radio exchanges wasn't just annoyed, it was tired of being the one to absorb the impact when others fall short. And now the consequences are beginning to spill beyond the team. Rival squads are watching closely, sponsors are listening, the media smell blood, and most crucially, the Ferrari board, those sitting in quiet offices far from the paddock, have now heard their star drivers questioning the competence of the very people running the show. What began as a mismanaged Sunday has turned into a reputational firestorm, because when both Hamilton and Leclerc, two of the most talented drivers on the grid, begin to question the process live over the airwaves, it isn't just feedback, it's an indictment. It tells the world that Ferrari doesn't have control of its own operation, that its internal compass is broken, that this entire project, sold as a championship level master plan, may be held together by hope more than actual strategy.